Good morning, everybody. This is Alicia Katz, Pollock, and welcome to our QBO Bootcamp. This is a 6-hour class about how to use QuickBooks Online. Let's go ahead and get started. So a little bit about me while everybody is logging in and getting signed on. My name is Alicia Katz Pollock, and my official job title is QBO Rockstar. And that's not just because I'm good at QuickBooks. It's also because I do play music. I play bass. So this is a beginner's class for the fundamentals of using QuickBooks. And this is just one of the classes that I offer. And so if there's different parts of the curriculum where you need to go deeper, because every business is different. Everybody has different needs. And so I have all different classes about different parts of QBO so that you can take a deep dive in. And so in this class, we're going to do all the fundamentals of how to use QBO. Like this is the core course. But then if you need more about sales tax or more about the chart of accounts or more about running reports or more about job costing, I have a lot of different courses and you can just pick the ones that you need. You will hear me refer to us as the owls periodically. Owls is our mascot. I even have a little owl with me right here, but it's our acronym. It's our on-demand web-based learning solution. And so when you take classes with me, it's not just a one and done like it is with pretty much every other provider. I actually treat this like a class. And so when you log into our website, into our owls, you have all the resources, you have all the recordings of the videos, you have access to all the handouts and discussion boards as well, so that you can actually communicate with me and ask me questions after the fact. So our first topic is just getting started with QBO and setting up QBO. The first question that I want to talk about is, why would you use QuickBooks Online? Why would you choose it as your software? And so first thing that I want to do is let you know that the class that I'm going to teach today, all my demonstrations are being done off of a test drive file. And so it's called Craig's Landscaping or Craig's Design and Landscaping. And so you can follow along with me and have it up on your screen. And in a minute, I'll show you how to get there. Or you can just watch. And then if you're practicing later on, you can call up the test file and try things out. And the test file is a great place to, even when you have your own QuickBooks up and running, it's a great place to try things out without looking around with your data. So that's right there on that page. Now, the conversation for why bookkeeping is important. I work with a lot of business owners who think that having a bookkeeper is a luxurious expense that they can't really afford. And I vote the opposite way. I think every business owner should have a bookkeeper, even if you're doing most of the day-to-day work yourself. And the reason for that is that being a bookkeeper is its own skill set. And if everybody was good at bookkeeping, we would all be bookkeepers. And that's really not true. Every business owner went into business because they have a talent or a passion about something, and they want to share that with the world and earn a living. And if you're spending your time as a business owner doing your books, that's doing somebody else's job when you could be running your company, looking for new clients, working with more clients, or even spending time with your family. So it's a really good idea to make sure that you're spending your time with the right thing. I always ask every business owner, do you like doing data entry? Do you like categorizing transactions? Do you like balancing the checkbook? And some do. Awesome. Are you good at it? Meaning, do you know what you're doing? Do you know what to do in unusual circumstances? And, maybe you can do all the basic stuff for getting your invoices together and taking payments for your customers, but you don't know what to do when somebody bounces a check. And then the third question or the fourth question is, do you have the time? And if your time is better spent with your family or running your business, then it's a really good idea to hire a bookkeeper, even if it's somebody who just comes in once a month and reconciles your checking accounts and makes sure that you're doing everything correctly. This is a good conversation to have. And if you're a bookkeeper and you are trying to get new clients and they're not sure if they should hire you, this is a great conversation, a great way of framing the conversation with them. So they're like, yeah, I really do need this service. What I want you to come away with here is that even if you're a business owner and you're doing your own books, I'm not saying don't take this class. I'm saying take this class so that you are comfortable in your software and you're confident and you're efficient in the software. And then definitely work with somebody so that you have all your ducks in a row and all your data is accurate. Now, the next thing that I like to talk about is the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule. And this is a universal statistic behind all of business. And the idea is that of all the work that you put into your company, only 20% of it is responsible for the 80% of the outcome, meaning that 20% of your customers give you 80% of your net profit, and 20% of your products and services give you 80% of your revenue, and 20% of your staff is responsible for 80% of your customer's experience, which also means that 20% of the time that you're putting in is responsible for that 80% of the outcomes. Of all the decisions that you're making in running your business, you want to know what those 20% are so that you can do more of them. And that way, all of your outputs will grow. So I like to use QuickBooks in a way that allows you to figure out what those 20% are. And then that way that you can steer your company, that whatever's working, whatever that little piece is that gives you the most bang for your buck, you can do more of it, and then your profits will grow. In the context of QuickBooks, you can use QuickBooks like a checkbook, like really simple, like here's my income, here's my expenses, and nothing else, which makes it fast and it makes it easy. Or you can use QuickBooks with all kinds of data mining with classes and locations and tags and job costing, which allows you to see the true cost behind the business and really what's happening behind the scenes. And that allows you to make more business decisions. But the flip side is it takes longer and it requires greater accuracy, and it's a little more complex and it takes more time. And so I like, when I'm working with companies, trying to find on that continuum of like quick and easy checkbook to really using everything QuickBooks has to offer. Where's your happy medium for the time that you want to put in and the experience that you have so that you can get the reports that you want? And so I kind of like to start at the end. I like to say, well, what do you want your QuickBooks to tell you? Is it just for the tax man? Is it just so that you know what taxes to pay? Or is it so that you can figure out these 20% to help your business grow? And then we implement the different features that are needed in order to get you in that happy place. The next thing is putting the quick in QuickBooks. Some people are in it every day. They sit down, they're in it, they're doing their stuff. Other people say, oh yeah, I'll just do it at the end of the week, or oh, I'll just do it at the end of the month. And if you want the quick in QuickBooks, the more time you spend in there, actually, the faster it is. Because if you're only in there occasionally, you're going to forget what to do from time to time, from instance to instance. But if you're in there all the time, you get to keep that information in your brain. So you're more efficient with it. Also, if you're in your QuickBooks every single day, like, at the end of the day, you've finished your work, it's 4:45, and you sit down and you take 15 minutes and you go in and you make your sales for the day and you go in and do the bank feed, it could be as little as 15 minutes every single day. If you wait until Friday, not only have you accumulated an hour and a quarter of time, but you're burned, you're fried. You don't even remember what happened on Monday. And now you got to go research everything and look it up. So what was an hour and a quarter of time is now going to be an hour and a half or 2 hours. And if you wait until the end of the month, what would have been just 5 hours of work accumulated is going to take all day, because now you have to go review and look up and go log in at the bank and go look at your records. And it takes more time. So the more time you spend in your QuickBooks, the quicker it's going to be. So I have 3 essential actions that you should take at the end of every day. You should always do your income. Put in your sales receipts, put in your invoices, take your payments, batch them together, make your deposits, and accept the banking transactions in the banking feed. So if you do that every day, then your books are going to be pretty up to date, and you can run your reports and really know where you're at right away. Maybe that doesn't even take you 15 minutes. Some other reports that you could take a look at are your daily, monthly, or year-to-date profit and loss report. And so if you review your reports in real time, you're going to be able to see what's working, what's not working, and adjust accordingly. I personally run a report that's a profit and loss report just for this month to date, and I compare it to last year's same month. So I'll compare January of this year to January of last year, and I can see if I'm doing better or worse. Also, take a look at your sales reports by products and take a look at your sales reports by customer. Sometimes you find that the customer who you think is your best customer may not be your most profitable customer. Maybe the services that they provide don't have as big a margin. Maybe they need a lot of extra hand-holding and you wind up putting in a lot of free time with them. So figuring out who your best customers are is a really good exercise. Keep an eye on your accounts receivable. Those are the invoices that you've written, but that haven't been paid yet. If your business is having cash flow problems, that's the place to look first, is saying, well, who hasn't paid me yet? And then take steps so that you can collect. Then in the same way, look at accounts payable. If you look at the bills that you owe, you can make a plan for your cash flow and make sure that you have the money on hand so that you're not late with your bills. And then I also run a balance sheet and keep an eye on the cash in my bank account and in my cash accounts and on my credit cards so that I can keep tabs on my spending. One other thing to know about working with me is I'm going to use this term a lot called PEBCAC. PEBCAC stands for problem exists between chair and keyboard. So that basically is saying that there's things that you are doing wrong. And when you're using software, there's going to be things that are going to be easy to figure out. And there's going to be some things that are not really intuitive. And so I'm going to call your attention throughout today to the PEBCACs, to the things that people tend to do wrong so that you don't fall into those same traps. So that if you're proactive and you know the right way of doing things, then there's no cleanup to do after the fact. One of the things that's really important right here, don't guess. If you're not sure what to do in a particular situation with your books, you can call me. You can call your bookkeeper. You can call your accountant. There's even an Ask My Accountant account that you can throw things into that you're not sure about. But what you don't want to do is just guess and hope you got it right, because you are going to have to pay somebody later on to clean it up. So we want everybody to be proactive. And if you are the bookkeeper and you're not sure, this is one of the services that I provide in my coaching program, which I'll talk about at the end of everything today. The book does, by the way, have some quizzes in there, and the quizzes are also available electronically in the course on the website. I know people go, oh man, quizzes, I hated school. I don't want to take any quizzes, but it really does help get the knowledge into your head. So I do recommend trying these quizzes so that you can make sure that you have a good understanding. Now let's start getting our hands dirty. Let's take a look at how to get around in QuickBooks Online. What I'm going to do is show you the interface. I'm going to show you the navigation pane, the plus new button, how to search, how to find the gear, and the dashboard. So right now I'm going to go into QuickBooks Online, and I gave you that link before for the test drive. And the link itself is QBO.intuit.com. That's the regular website. And then if you type /reader, like redirect /test drive, that takes you into this sample file. And then you can prove to it that you're a human being and continue. And that's going to take us into Craig's landscaping. Let's take a look at the interface. Down the left-hand side is the navigation pane. We also will call it the left nav bar. And you can collapse it by using these three little lines up here in that corner right there. So if you need more screen real estate, you can have it. And then I'll click on that to open it up again. So you can open it and collapse it. The plus new button right here. The plus new button is where you go to make a new transaction. Any information you want to add into your QuickBooks, this is where you do it. So there's a column for customers. So this is where you make a new invoice or make a new sales receipt or receive a payment. Under the second column is the vendors. This is all the money that you're spending, making expenses, checks, bills, paying your bills, purchase orders, vendor credits, credit card credits. So everything related to people that you are paying money. In the employees column is where you'll find your payroll if you're using payroll, and also time tracking. And then in the other column, this is where you can make a bank deposit, transfer your money, do a journal entry, send statements, adjust your quantities, and pay down your credit cards. Turning your attention over to the right-hand side, there's a little section here for My Experts, and this is where you can go to find a bookkeeper if you need a bookkeeper. Help is where you can go to get help. And this is a whole series of help articles. Now, because I'm in the sample file, nothing is here, but this is also where you can go to get help from QBO support. So instead of calling in and sitting on hold for a really long time, you'll have a button in here to allow you to chat with an agent. And you can do a text chat. You can also get a callback where you put in your phone number and they'll call you back. And usually it takes just a few minutes. And those are the best ways of getting help. The chat team is actually a kind of a specialized group. And so sometimes you get better help on the chat than you do from the phone calls. Now, the next button here is the search, and this is really super important. This search right here is one of my favorite things about QuickBooks Online versus desktop. Every time you make a transaction, you're going to be able to just click back on this magnifying glass and see the 10 most recent transactions that you've created. So if you do something and you're like, oh, wait, shoot, I missed something, you can just click on it and open it right back up again. You can also search up here for just about anything in the system. Like if I type profit, it will give me a link to the profit and loss reports. If I search for a customer or a vendor, it will, okay, it might be because I'm in a sample file, but usually as you type, it will start finding the matches for you. You can also search by dollar amount. So if I'm looking for everything that was $19.99, now for some reason my search is not working, but usually this is just this beautiful example. And I can even say, like I can put in the customer name and their dollar amount, and sometimes it will take me straight to that transaction. So that's the search right there. Now there is also an advanced search right down here, and that's this screen that it's taken me right here. From this search, I can search for all transactions. I can search for a specific type of transaction. I can search by the amount or the line amount or the display name or the memo, pretty much everything. So if I'm looking for all transactions that are $19.99, I can go ahead and type in that $19.99 right there and search, and it will go find all the transactions. And then I can just click on it to open it up. And there we go. Now, I also want to point out that there is an option here for all transaction lines and also line amounts. Sometimes you might be looking for a transaction where you had several different lines on it. Like you had a line for the product and then you had a line for the shipping, and you just want to find the shipping piece of it. If you do all transaction lines and the line amount or the line account, it will actually look not just at the whole transaction for the grand total of the transaction, but for the line items. And for some businesses, that's really key. Then there's a bell right here for notifications. I don't really see too much happening right there. Then there's the gear, and the gear is really important. The gear here is kind of like the plus new button is for adding things into QuickBooks. The gear on the other side are for working with the structure, the software in your QuickBooks. This is where you're going to go for your accountant settings, managing your users, setting up your forms, your chart of accounts, the lists that are the behind the scenes in the software, your products and services, recurring transactions, your attachments. So you can see here that like lists are everything that you drop down, and then exporting, reconciling, budgeting, all the different tools. There's also feedback, and I spend a lot of time in the feedback. When something doesn't seem to be working, I will go in and put feedback. Like right now, for today, for some reason, our search isn't working. So I would go up to feedback. Now, you know what? Things are being a little wonky here. I'm going to refresh my screen and kind of start over again. Now, because QuickBooks Online is browser-based, if something isn't working, one of the things to do is refresh your screen, and then it will go get the fresh information. And let's go see if that made any difference at all for my search. No, not for the search, but I will then go up to feedback, and here's the feedback. And I'm going to say in the test drive file, search isn't working, and I'll let them know. And so now that actually went into QuickBooks, and I know for a fact that they see this. There's actually a TV in one of the rooms where all the feedback people are putting in just shows up on the TV, and that helps them know if something isn't working. Now, another thing to know about the about QuickBooks Online is it does work best in Chrome, and it also works even better if you're using a Chrome incognito window. And the incognito window is found up under these three dots in the upper right-hand corner, where I say new incognito window. And what an incognito window is, besides dark and mysterious, is it's a Chrome window that does not collect cookies, does not have a history, does not have a cache. It's always a fresh experience. And if something's not working in the regular QuickBooks, if you come over to incognito and try it in incognito, you'll get an idea of whether the problem is actually with QuickBooks. If you get the same problem, then the problem is with QuickBooks. But if you don't have the problem, then you know that the problem's actually with your browser. So I'm going to try searching now and see if I get, look, the search, no. So I know that the problem with the search today is QuickBooks. The next thing that I want to talk about is the dashboard. The dashboard is the first section on the left navigation. And notice when I hold my cursor over the dashboard, I have two tabs. I have Get Things Done and Business Overview. I'm going to start with Get Things Done. Whenever I'm in one of the windows, note that those same tabs are now also in right across the top here. So everything that you see on a drop down here also has tabs across here. So Get Things Done is this little kind of workflow to help guide you step by step through what you're doing. I don't actually spend a whole lot of time here, honestly. I do prefer the business overview. And in the business overview, I have these charts that give me an idea of how my company is doing. I can see the balances on my bank accounts. I can see my profit and loss report, and this is dynamic. The green and the blue are transactions that are already in QuickBooks. And the ones that are in the hatch marks over here are the ones in the banking feed waiting to be entered. And all of these tiles have drop down so you can change your time frame. You also can click on any one of them and it will take you instantly to a report. So if I'm like, what did I spend $155 on maintenance for? I can click on it and it will actually take me into a report and show me. So the dashboard is really wonderful and interactive. There's also a privacy button up here in the upper right-hand side. The privacy blurs all of this out. So if you're working in a coffee shop or somebody comes up behind you who's not authorized to see this information, you can just blur it out real quick. You will also find on either the business overview or the Get Things Done, if you have reminders set to pop up, like a recurring transaction that happens every month, keep an eye out for alerts in these two places so that you can use your recurring transactions. And if there's any warnings, like a credit card payment failed or something like that, this is also where you're going to see those things. The next things that I want to show you are some of my tips and tricks about navigating around in the software. So one of the things that I want to show you is opening multiple windows. That when you are using QBO, sometimes it's going to be really helpful to be able to see two things at once. For example, if I'm looking in my banking feed right here, and I see some transactions and I'm not sure what I usually charge that to for the vendor, what I can do is leave this up so that I don't have to leave it and come back in on it. I can go to expenses, and if I right click on the thing that I want, it will give me an option to open the link in a new tab. And so if I open it up in a new tab, you can now see another tab opening up behind the scenes over here. And I'll click on it, and now it takes me into my vendor screen. And so I can go look up the vendor and see what the expense usually is classified as, and then come back over to my bank transactions and do that thing over here. I usually work in 3 or 4 tabs all at the same time because I might want to see a report and this and that and the other thing all at the same time. I frequently will even have the search window open in a new tab so that I can just go search for something and pull it up. One of the things that I do also like to do is bookmark my commonly used windows. So for example, if I want to open up my search in a new window, I could right click on that advanced search and open it in a new tab. If I have screens that I use a lot, like my bank feed or my search. Another trick is that I can grab the lock from the URL that's up here and drag it down to my bookmarks bar. And then I now have a button that will take me to my search. So if I'm just open up a new tab, instead of doing the right click trick, if I just open up a new tab, I can now click on search and go straight to that screen for me. And so you can have your banking feed and your search and your reports and your customer center across the top. If you're a bookkeeper who has multiple clients, those will work across your clients. So that's pretty cool too, is that those links will work no matter what file you're in. So that is the stuff about multiple windows. The next thing that I want to show you are the keyboard shortcuts, that you do have shortcuts available to your data entry easier. The way that you find those is by holding down your Control and Option keys and then hitting your question mark. If you're on a Mac, it's Control Option. If you're on a PC, it's Control Alt. And then you just hit the question mark key and it brings up this additional information pane. And here, one thing that's really nice is you can find your company ID. So if you're communicating with with support, they're going to ask you what your company ID is, and that's the number that you need to give them so they know what file you're in. You can also see here that you have keyboard commands. Now, some people never use keyboard commands, but some people love keyboard commands. And so what this is showing me that I can do that Control Alt or Control Option and then hit this letter and it will do that thing. So if I do Control Option I, it will open up a new invoice for me. So let me go ahead and show you how that works. So I'm doing my Control Option and then I'm hitting the letter I on my keyboard and then boom, new invoice. So if you're somebody who doesn't like using your mouse, you would rather do keystrokes, you can do those. Now that I'm in this form, let me show you some other keyboard commands as well. Now, I'm not going to teach you how to do an invoice quite yet. We're going to be talking about that, but I just want to give you some tricks to make your life easier while you're creating your transactions. The customer field, or whatever field you're in right here, you can pick anything you want off of the drop-down lists, but you can also just start typing. And it doesn't matter if you're doing the very first letters or if you're picking something at the end of the word, it will find all the matches and whittle them down. And then when it autofills, you can either click on it on the list over here, or you can hit the tab key and it will accept that information and fill it in for you. Now, one thing I do want to let you know, though, is if you type too fast and you go faster than it's going, it might do something like this. Like it tried autofilling while I was still typing the word concrete. And so I got to CONCRET and then it autofilled and then I typed the T. And so it now thinks that I want to make a new product. So if you're ever entering in something on the list and instead of accepting it, it starts making a new one, just back out, stop what you're doing, and just go back and try again. Don't think something's wrong and try creating it again. It just means that you typed faster than it was able to autofill. Some other cool tricks. Your dates, you can use the calendar, but sometimes you got a long way to go. Like if you want to go to something last year, you'd have to go click to get to the calendar. So there are some easier ways of doing things in the date. The first thing is that if the date you're putting in is in the current year, you don't have to type the year at all. I can just put in, March 9th. I can just do 3/9, and then I'll hit the tab key to accept it, and it will all of a sudden become 03/09/2022. So you don't even have to type the zeros. You can just do 3/9, and it'll pull up March 9th. Some other tricks, though, if you want to get to today's date, I can type the letter T on my keyboard and it will jump to today's date no matter what date I'm in the system. So T takes you straight back to today. If I want to get to yesterday, I can hit the minus sign and it will go minus, 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 and it will go back through the days. And in the same way, if I tap the plus key on my keyboard, it will go plus, 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 and it will go forward one day at a time. And then when I want to jump back to today, I can go ahead and type the letter T. And I'm back to today. If I want to get to the first day of the month, if I type the letter M, it will go back to the first of the current month. And if I type M again, it will go back to the first of the previous month. And MMM will drop me backwards in dates. And in the same way, the word month ends in the letter H. So if I type H, it will take me to the last day of the month. And so here, this is really helpful for me in particular, because even though I am over 50, I still have to sing 30 days has September, April, June, and November to know what's got 30 days and what has 31 days. So I just love the letter H because I can just walk past them like that. In the same way, if you want to get back to the beginning of the year, the word year starts with the letter Y. So if I type Y, it will go back to the first of this year. And if I type Y again, it will go back to the first of last year, and Y again, end of that, the year before. And if I type the letter R, because R is the last letter of the word year, it will take me to December 31st of each of the years. So I'm a big fan of these. Like if I want to get to January 1st, 2022, I will type TY and it will just take me there instead of typing in the dates. So those are some tricks to make your date entry a little bit easier for you. Also, all the quantity fields and the rate fields are calculators. So you do not need to take out your phone and go typing in some numbers on your phone, or maybe you still have a calculator or a 10 key. I haven't seen one in a really long time, but people are still out there. But you don't have to go do a calculation somewhere else and then put it into QuickBooks. If I buy, a third of a gross of something, I can just do 144 times 0.33 and hit the tab key, and it will give me what that number is. So let's say normally I charge $120 for something, but I'm giving a 10% discount. I can do 120 times 0.1, and it will go ahead and give me that $12 to show me what the discount is. So you can use all of these calculation fields that way as well. Now, if I'm doing a discount, I usually don't discount right in the line. I do go down to the discount down here at the bottom, because you do want to see the full amount that you would have made minus your discount, not just take the discounts and not know how much your total services would have been. Anyway, I digress. I'm getting ahead of myself. So what I want you to see here are that you can use these fields like calculators. Entering dates, we did the drop-down calculators, we did the drop-down lists, searching for text on a page. If I am looking at a big list of transactions and I want to find something on that page, I can't use the search because the search is looking at the transactions themselves. I just want to see something on this screen. I can use my browser's search by using, if you're on a Mac, it's Command F. If you're on a PC, it's Control F. And then see this little drop down up here in the upper right-hand corner? That's Chrome's search. And so I can type anything and it will find it on the page. So here's one of this 1999 right here. So if you're looking for something, instead of scrolling around trying to find it, you can just do the Control F or Command F, type in what you're looking for, and it will find it on the page. Like if I want to find all of the squeaky clean car washes, I can now go through and scroll through them and find them. Something else I want to show you are the dynamic buttons. If I'm go back to this invoice and look down in the bottom right-hand corner, I can see that the action to accept this transaction is save and send. If I drop down the arrow on the right-hand side, I have additional options. If I didn't want to mail this, if I just wanted to save and close it and go back to what I was doing, I would choose save and close. If I want to make another invoice after this one, I would do save and new. That way I can make an invoice, make an invoice, make an invoice, and not have to start selecting invoice every time in between them. The good thing about this button is it's sticky. So whatever you set it on, like if I do save and send right now, the next time I make an invoice, it will also default to save and send. But if I change it to save and new, the next time I make one, the button will already say save and new. So these buttons are always sticky until you change what mode you're in. Down at the bottom, you will also see buttons down here. Print or preview will show you a preview of the transaction. You can make transactions recurring if you're using Essentials Plus or Advance. There's a customize button. Now, if I'm in a transaction, let me get out of this one and go to an existing transaction. So when I'm in a transaction that has already been saved, there's a more button down here in the bottom center. And this more button is definitely not to be overlooked. Here you can copy a transaction, void a transaction, delete a transaction, see the transaction journal behind it. So for those of you who are bookkeepers and you know about debits and credits, this is where you're going to go find out what's happening behind the scenes with your debits and your credits and all the different categories that it's touching. I can also, by the way, use my back button because it is in a browser and it will take me back to the transactions that I was just using. If I click and hold on the transaction, it shows me all the windows that I was just in. And sometimes it'll get stuck. Like if you've been editing a transaction from a report, and I have to jump myself back several of them to get back to where I want to get to. So that's a good trick on the browser to take advantage of that. Drop down and jump several steps backwards. And then last but not least on the more button is the audit history. This is really awesome because the audit history will show you the whole history of the transaction, who created it, when it was created, and if there were changes made, it will also give you a change log and show you the befores and afters so that you can keep track of the activity on a transaction. Now, we're going to talk about the audit history in next week's class. We'll go into this in depth. If you are groovy on these shortcuts like I am, I have actually a whole hour course called QBO Hacks. And in that QBO Hacks, I go into more detail than I just went into about all the different shortcuts and all the different ways that I game the system and little hidden features and settings that make it easier to use. So if you want to save yourself a whole bunch of time, that QBO Hacks class will 1 hour and you'll save hours and hours and hours of time.